I wanted to do a video talking about occult communication, but then I realized that the problem is actually due to paradigms. So there's going to be a video on occult paradigms, and that video is this. Hello, I'm Dave, the Amateur Magus. On this channel, I talk about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find in a dusty old grimoire. On this episode, we're going to be talking about paradigms in the occult. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, and if you really enjoy my content, Patreon link will be down in the description, unless you are already watching this on Patreon, in which case, hello patrons, I thank you and I appreciate you. Thank you for your continued support. Back to the video. So what is a paradigm in the occult sense? A paradigm in the occult sense is going to be a framework or an understanding of how magic and the occult actually function. It might seem like there's a lot of those, like, oh, people are going to have different ideas of how the occult works. No, actually, there's only three. If you break it down, you're really only going to have three. The three major paradigms are the spirits paradigm, the psychological paradigm, and the parapsych paradigm, which is actually in between and is a nice snug little place where it's right in between those two. So the spirits paradigm is going to be exactly what it says. There are spirits. They are real. Spirits can affect and manipulate the physical world. These spirits can be talked to, they can be communicated with in the form of various rituals and various other methods, and you're going to be talking to these spirits and you're going to be able to learn things from them and, as well as, be informed about things by them. The spirit paradigm is important because this is the paradigm that all of the old grimoires are written in. I feel like it's important to note because a lot of people seem to think that, oh, they didn't really believe in spirits. No, they did. The occultists of old did definitely 120% believe that spirits existed, and they had a very good reason why, which we will get into later. That being said, the polar opposite in this schema of there is spirits and they are real is it is all in your head. This is the psychological paradigm, which is effectively, it's kind of a weird one to wrap your head around because what it says is that magic isn't real. Magic is only real because you convince yourself it is real and you have psychologically manifested things through tricking your mind into making them happen. Effectively, the psychological paradigm is a gigantic game of weaponized confirmation bias. Magic doesn't work because it works, and it doesn't work because spirits are magic or anything. It works because you have convinced yourself it works, and your mind is now forcing you to see that, yes, it is working, and magic does work because magic is real, and it works because your mind is not programmed to be right, your mind is programmed to be correct, which is very different. This has to do with the fact that the human mind is programmed for correctness, not necessarily the truth. This paradigm got really popular due to a man by the name of Aleister Crowley, and it kept getting more popular due to ceremonial magic and chaos magicians. That being said, it's kind of in a weird place at the moment, is my understanding, where some people are thinking, I think that spirits might actually be real, because we got some weird crap going on, and some of the weird crap cannot be explained as it's all in your head, because if it's all in my head, how in the hell did my entire room get rearranged when I walked into a different room and then walked out 5 minutes later? And that is a 200-pound couch that no one moved with no noise. So yeah, probably spirits at some point. Which brings us to the third paradigm, the parapsych paradigm, where spirits and energies exist, like the astral plane does exist, but there is a mental component as well to your magic. There is something in your mind that interacts with these spirits, and in the case of the astral plane, allows you to see and imagine the astral plane, all kinds of different things. This is effectively the having your cake and eating it too of spiritual paradigms. And as a whole, this paradigm really is probably the most healthy to have of, yes, sometimes there are spirits, but it's not always spirits. And then you have the side of, yes, stuff is in your head, but maybe you should, investigate because it might not just be something in your head. These three paradigms are going to affect how you pursue and how you look at magical results and different magical things going forward and as a whole. Now, that being said, you're going to find that there is a lot of very weird stuff in magic, and magic and occultism is weird. Now, there's one very bizarre thing about magical paradigms that I don't think a lot of people talk about, and that is what I'm going to call systemic paradigms. Now, what do I mean by this? Simply put, what system you're using for magic is going to have certain rules and restrictions on what it can and cannot do, what you can and cannot do. A good example that I have personal experience with through getting to watch it is I know somebody who decided that she was going to invoke the planetary spirits of Jupiter, and she was going to go ahead and she was going to invoke Jupiter for a money spell. Very similar to the money spell that I put up on the channel the other day. However, due to getting a little bit confused, this individual did not invoke Jupiter. They invoked the planet Venus using Jupiterian powers. They went through and they invoked Jupiter using the sigil of Jupiter, but they did the invoking hexagram of Venus, for those of you wondering. Which, in case you're wondering, is not how you're supposed to do that operation. And what happened? Well, you would assume that it would either blank not work or some variation of, it would get like a weird mixture of Jupiter and Venus. And that is kind of what happened. What ended up happening was it ended up expanding every single Venerian part of her life. It was basically like she took the Venus parts of her life and applied a heaping helping of Jupiterian growth to all of them. Which is kind of weird, but you would assume that it just wouldn't work because the ritual format was wrong. Well, the thing is, it works because the way that the system works says that that was how that manifestation should work. If you're calling Venus through Jupiter, it definitely makes more sense that Venus would actually be expanded through using Jupiter and Venus together than for the ritual to just not work. And that's because it's the way that the actual system works. Now, the system of the Golden Dawn is going to work very bizarrely for people not familiar with it, and this person was not familiar with it. They were also not initiated, which is also another thing. Different systems are going to have you have to go through some form of initiation system, which an initiation is basically plugging you into the magical current or otherwise changing you in some way. Now, change is scary to everyone. That being said, it's more change you from being a child into an adult. You're going to naturally have that process happen over time. So it's not actually a big, scary, negative thing. It's actually usually a beneficial and positive thing. It's also important to know that the people with the full psych paradigm are usually incapable of actually understanding other paradigms. Now, the spirit people can actually understand the psych paradigm, and the parapsych paradigm can understand both, but the psych paradigm people are going to have difficulty understanding different aspects of how the spiritual paradigm is going to work, because they're just not going to understand how spirits work, because that's just not a part of their system. And spirits are something I talk about on this channel a lot, so in case it wasn't abundantly clear, I do believe in the parapsych paradigm, where some things are definitely in your head, and sometimes it does feel like, okay, am I going crazy, or is this actually like a real spiritual experience? And sometimes what'll end up happening is you'll end up being like, okay, this spirit just told me this thing, and this thing is happening the next day that I wake up and I'm having this conversation now, which is the exact thing that the spirit told me about. I don't know what to do with this. That is the kind of thing that happens when you're on the parapsych paradigm. That being said, I have been Dave the Amateur Magus. Hope you're having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Let me know what you think of the new intro. Take it easy.